Okay, we're live, everyone. Good evening. My name is Councillor Tony Cordy of Mount Alexander Shire. I'd like to welcome you to our meeting. To start the official proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on Jara country, of which the members and elders of the Jara community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. Just a reminder, council meetings are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. We have all 7 councillors present. Contrary to earlier advice, I was to be away, but I'm here, so that's great news. So there's no apologies, leave of absence. Declarations of interest and conflicts of interest, councillors. Councillor Mulkey.
Item 9.2.2.
Thanks for that, Councillor Mulkey. Any other councillors? Councillor McClure. You're muted, Councillor McClure.
My apologies. Item 9.1.2, the response to the petition regarding the one-lane bridge over Barcus Creek, Froome Road.
Thanks for that, Councillor McClure. Any other councillors? Okay, I would declare a conflict of interest in relation to 9.3.2, which is the budget, item 1 of the recommendation. So we'll deal with that when we get to it, but Councillor Maltby will chair that item. So thank you for that, Councillor Maltby. Okay, confirmation of minutes, councils. The meeting of council for the 18th of May. Got a recommendation. Do I have a motion, a mover and a seconder?
I'll do it.
Councillor Anea and Councillor Driscoll.
Yep.
Any objections, councillors? No objections. I declare the matter carried. Thank you. Acknowledgements in nil. And we've got a technical problem. Acknowledgements are nil. We'll move on to public question time. Can I have a motion to suspend standing orders, please, councillors?
So moved.
Yep. Can I have it's a Councillor Maltby. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gardner. All in favour. So we'll suspend standing orders for half an hour for public questions. Thank you. Okay. Question 1 is from Andrea Pasqualini, and it reads as follows. These are her words, not mine. The instrument of delegation by the Mount Alexander Shire Council CEO to the Camp Reserve Community Asset Committee requires that the membership of the committee is up to 12 and no less than 5 members, is to include representatives of regular user groups of the facility, key community groups and the broader community, and the membership of the committee is to aim for diverse representation to enable diverse views and perspectives to be heard. Given that the current committee membership is not understood to meet these requirements and the local residents are a key community group, what is the council going to achieve there and other community representation on the committee? And further, what timeline is being considered for this initiative? Okay, CEO, have we got anyone wishing to respond to this one? Or
Mayor, I can do that for you.
Thank you, Acting Director Jude Holt.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Andrea, for your question and your interest in Camp Reserve. Camp Reserve has a really active and committed group of committee members who have been operating the reserve in a really highly effective way for a really long time. Having said that, your question really is around the process for community representation. And the process is this: annually, there is an annual general meeting held, and that's normally at the end of the reporting year. And this is the mechanism for new committee members to communicate their interest to the committee in joining. Noting that only council can appoint committee members, each committee nominates interested people for their membership to their committee for council to consider and approve. So we have delegations in place for our committees, which are created under Section 63 of the Local Government Act. And the delegations state at the moment that the current membership is for 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, that members are eligible for a reappointment. As you state in your letter, the maximum number is 12 and the minimum number is 5, and we sit somewhere in the middle of that number for that committee at the moment.
Thanks for that, Acting Director Jude Holt. We'll move on. Question 2 is from John Lewis, and there's quite a lengthy letter here, but I'll try and fit it in under the normal 3 minutes. Camp Reserve Heritage and Landscape Protection and Restoration. Mayor Cordy and Councillors, the unique and irreplaceable historic landscape, cultural and social heritage of Castlemaine is exemplified by the Camp Reserve, but over recent decades, key features of this have been allowed to deteriorate through neglect. The sloping landscape in the southwest corner of the camp was, in 1852, the site of the original Gold Commissioners Camp headquarters, and the timber stallion stables in that corner are thought to date back to about that time. The 2 stately river red gums inside the main entrance appear in an 1861 photo of the reserve, and almost the sole survivors of the many indigenous eucalyptus trees that grew in the camp. The rows of elms along the carriageway were planted in 1862, and other historic plantings include the oaks and cypress pines along Gingell Street. Most of the gums on the southwest slope were removed without replacement not too long ago, and more recently, cypress pines on Gingell Street that died and have been removed have also not been replaced. Despite falling under Heritage Overlay 43.01, which requires the heritage values of the camp to be preserved and enhanced, this requisite care seems to have fallen through the cracks of council management. Management of the sporting and agricultural infrastructure in the camp is delegated to the Camp Reserve Community Asset Committee through an instrument of delegation. However, the focus of this instrument is on management of the sporting and show facilities and functions, not the complexities of a historic heritage precinct. Maintenance of the heritage stables and landscape character of the camp are not identified as responsibilities of the committee, nor should they be. Council takes prime responsibility for maintenance of only the garden beds around the trees inside the main gate, nothing more. The future of the camp heritage also appears dim. For example, not only does the Camp Reserve Master Plan endorsed by Council last year not mention restoration or even maintenance of its heritage features, but it approved the removal of the historic gums near the main gate. My question is, noting that the vision of Council includes to manage and protect our heritage, how can Council enable the protection, preservation, restoration and enhancement of the unique heritage features and landscape of the Camp Reserve, and given imminent threats, in what time frame? So that's a question from John Lewis, and detailed letter with it, and certainly doesn't represent my views. I've just read it out. So we've got Jude Holt, our Acting Director, to give a response. So thank you, Jude.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, John, for your question and your interest in the heritage value of the Camp Reserve. And please be assured that Council is also committed to the heritage value of the reserve. I'm going to reply in 3 sections. So ongoing management was one area you mentioned, trees you mentioned, and heritage value you mentioned also. So I'm just going to address each of those. So regarding ongoing management of Camp Reserve, you're absolutely correct. We do have a delegated committee who has the responsibility of ongoing management of that reserve. But the delegation document that the CEO has provided to the committee in order to operate that reserve actually mandates that the committee must comply with any of Council's master plans, conservation plans, local laws, policies and procedures that we have adopted as part of our organisation. So in order to support the committee in operating within those requirements, we have a team called the Active Communities team that is the key contact for Camp Reserve Committee, and that team provides support and advice to the committee as requested and as required. In terms of the heritage value of Camp Reserve, the site is covered by a number of overlays, heritage being one of those. Landscape significance overlay, land subject to inundation overlay, and we must give consideration to all of these overlays when we're making decisions and planning use and changes to the reserves. Now, obviously, they have been considered in the master plan that's already been adopted, and they'll certainly be considered again when we go to detailed design on the project. The master plan is a document that tries to balance an honouring of the past, if you like, with the contemporary usage of today, and we're hoping that that's what the master plan achieves, and certainly the intent. In relation to the trees, the Camp Reserve Master Plan includes a recommendation that tree management plan be prepared that assesses trees and makes recommendations for their future management. And we also have an ongoing management program for all of our urban trees. And in order to support the health and well-being of those trees and the longevity of those trees, we have arborist assessments that are undertaken. And that's really about safety and appropriate management of the trees into the long term. So I'll finish with my first statement. Please be assured that the heritage value of Camp Reserve is very important to us as it is important to you.
Thanks for that, Acting Director Jude Holt. Okay, we're going to move on to question 3. Councillors, yes.
I can to read this one for you if you'd like to take a break.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Henderson. That's excellent work. So this one's from Richard Yates, question 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to ask some questions relating to the proposed bioenergy facility to be located north of Don Smallwoods on Richards Road, Castlemaine. Question: what is the megawatt size / capacity of the biomass heat plant at the facility? Question: what are the estimated percentages of the energy components to be used within the biomass heat plant? Animal products / meat waste %, crops %, organic waste from the landfill? Question: woody waste %, recyclables, i.e. cardboard, etc. %, manure %, MSW brackets, municipal solid waste %, chemically treated wood products, i.e. railway sleepers / ties, shipping pallets, etc. %, TDF brackets, tyre derived fuel or brackets TCR, tyre crumb rubber %, brackets MSW, municipal solid waste %. Question: what is the estimated biomass heat plant consumption of woody material / trees per year to be? And what is planned for the replanting of lost vegetation?
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. CEO, have we got someone that would like to speak on this one?
Yes, myself. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO.
So there's a little bit of misunderstanding about this project, I think, Mayor. So really important to understand, this is an initiative of the Mount Alexander Sustainability Group in partnership with Don KR. It's not a council project. We haven't actually yet received, to my knowledge, we haven't yet received a planning permit application for this proposal. So we're not in a position to be able to advertise any details associated with that as yet. But Mount Alexander Sustainability Group does have a website. They've got their normal website and they've got a dedicated website to this particular project there. And I'd refer anyone who's interested in understanding more about that project to have a look at that. It's at bioenergy.net.au, and you can get it via the Mount Alexander Sustainability Group website also, but you can go straight to it via that other website. The other thing that I'd note there on that website, Mayor, is that they do have a contact us section. So if you want to get to the people and have a really good talk with them about what is this project really about, they've got their details on there through the Mount Alexander Sustainability Group, and I'm sure that they'd be more than happy to speak with anyone about their concerns or their hopes for that project.
Thanks very much, CEO. So we'll see what happens with that one.
Mayor?
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, Councillor.
I'm happy to read the next 3 questions, which all relate to the same topic.
Excellent. We'll deal with them together. So if you'd like to read them out, Councillor Anir.
Great, thank you. Question 4 is from Camillo DeMarco. Thank you, Mayor and Councillors, for your time today. My name is Camillo DeMarco, and I am a local resident of Castlemaine. I wear a few hats in this town, including sitting on the Indigenous Roundtable with the Mayor as part of my work at Bendigo District Aboriginal Cooperative. I also run the Castlemaine Billy Cart Challenge, which won the Australia Day Award for Community Event of the Year in 2019. And I am also one of the organisers of the Rites of Passage program, which has been working with young men in this town for over 10 years. Some weeks ago, I had a chat with the Mayor and shared the vision for a dedicated town square in the heart of Castlemaine, outside the market building on Mostyn Street. This would be the central gathering place that we currently do not have, and that we believe would bring this town together. We have seen this work during festival time, and from many anecdotal conversations with community members, there is a strong desire to see this as a permanent feature of this town. A town square in Mostyn Street would have many benefits, including 3 key areas which we will be expanding on. Meeting the social and emotional benefits that we know outdoor gathering spaces offer. Benefits for traders and businesses with increased foot traffic, especially in light of a new supermarket coming to town. An opportunity for Castlemaine to have an activated space for visitors that allows our heritage buildings to be admired and our unique town fully celebrated. The idea of a town square outside the market building as a community gathering place fits in beautifully with the great work Council is already doing in this space and aligns with Council documents such as the Castlemaine Streetscape Plan of June 2020. We believe this is a fantastic opportunity for our town and for this group of councillors to be known as the council that created the town square for the people of Castlemaine. What we believe is missing is a thorough community conversation to hear the true voice of what residents need and want in this space. The question I would like to leave you with is this: will councillors give us the blessing to work together with council and community in partnership to further explore the idea of a dedicated town square in Mostyn Street? Question 5 from Bergen O'Brien. Mayor, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to ask my question. My name is Bergen O'Brien. I work as a television documentary editor and I'm the secretary of the West End Hall. I've lived in rural New South Wales, Sydney, remote Northern Territory and Melbourne, but 10 years ago I made Castlemaine my home, bought a home, and I now feel that I'm here to stay. I love this town and this community. I'm drawn to the characters and the character of this town. They're things I want to preserve. I'm concerned that with a new supermarket being built on the edge of the central business district, foot traffic in our Mostyn Street shopping strip is in danger of declining. I think as a community, we should be encouraged to do whatever we can to induce economic interest back into the heart of Castlemaine. The mill has proved to be an attractive development and is gobbling up visitors from Melbourne. We should be inducing these visitors to spread their social and economic love into the heart of Castlemaine shopping strips. I think the way we do this needs to be creative, and that's why I'm supportive and encouraging of a town square in Mostyn Street. Something beautiful happens when you let people gather and socialise in the heart of the town. Last year, a PricewaterhouseCoopers survey of over 4,000 Victorians found access to leisure facilities, including shops, was the second most important factor in whether people loved where they lived, behind only community safety and equal to inclusiveness of the local area. According to retail think tank Main Street Australia, diversity of shops and services, including streetscape improvements, are key to revitalising our shopping strips. Melbourne suburbs like Croydon credit their new town square with increasing foot traffic and reactivating interest in the area's shopping strip. Inside Retail magazine says, shopping strips can buck the trend of the drift of retail shoppers to shopping centres. To do so, shopping strip precincts need a touch of innovation and ingenuity. Mornington's Main Street was closed to traffic for 6 months over COVID lockdowns and is regularly closed to traffic over their busiest summer months as an inducement to attract people to spend time and money in the shopping strip. I spoke to a number of business people there who were overwhelmingly supportive and recognised that when people spend more time in a relaxed manner, it improves the amenity for everyone and increases the economic opportunities for the businesses that bring a town to life. My question is, what is Council's plans to draw economic interest back into the heart of Castlemaine to support the unique character of our shopping street and historic business district? And will councillors give us their blessing to work together with council and community in partnership to further explore the idea of a dedicated town square in Mostyn Street? Question 6 is from Susie Burke. Hello, Mayor and councillors and staff. Thanks for letting me speak. My name is Susie Burke and I'm a psychologist in Castlemaine, and I regularly catch up with other psychologists in the area. We are all flat out at the moment, working with people who are sad, anxious, lonely, disconnected, depressed, stressed, scared, suicidal, and angry. Our Shire has one of the highest youth suicide rates in the state. Everywhere we are seeing rising rates of depression and anxiety, underpinned by an epidemic of loneliness. We can't just treat all these people, not enough time. We badly need our community itself to provide greater protections for people's mental health. Over the last 20 years, when I was a senior psychologist at the Australian Psychological Society, I was working with community and environmental psychologists who specialise in understanding how the ways in which communities are built and used and function can protect people's mental health. When people feel involved with their community, this provides a sense of belonging, social connectedness, meaning and purpose. Strong ties with family, friends and the community provide us with happiness, security and support. These factors reduce mental health problems. Community is critical for us to thrive. So I often think about how we could change things in this Shire to bring in some of these protective factors. In the last little while, these ideas have converged with Camillo and Bergen's visions for the creation of a town square in the centre of Castlemaine, a central gathering place for the community to meet, connect, and build a sense of belonging to each other and our Shire. Research around the world shows that great places can improve the physical and mental health of individuals and communities everywhere. So, what if we created a town square in the heart of Castlemaine, on Mostyn Street in front of the market building? What if this was a space where multi-generations of people could gather at all times of the day and evening to be part of the community, to watch and be part of the world going by? What if we created a place that was free from cars, but surrounded by shoppers and residents and visitors and young people and the elderly? A place where we could all feel welcome. What if we built it as a place of beauty and peace and history? A place where people could sit and eat, play street chess, hold meetings, relax in the sunshine. What if the lonely people could come out of their homes and sit in their town square to spend some time in the company of others and feel seen and a part of the Shire? What if the young people could meet their friends in the town square after school to laugh and chat and eat and feel like they belong here? And what if the process of creating the town square was a placemaking collaborative project between the council and the community, which inspired people to imagine this public space as the heart of our community and drew on the community skills and interests to build it. I think the creation of this quality public space would contribute enormously to people's health, happiness and well-being. So my question is, what is the council doing to address the increasing rates of loneliness, disconnection, anxiety and depression in our Shire? And will councillors give us their blessing to work together with council and community in partnership to further explore the idea of a dedicated town square in Mostyn Street? Done.
Thanks for that excellent work, Councillor Anir. Have we got somebody that wants to speak to that one, CEO? Acting Director Jude Holt's going to talk to that issue. Thank you, Jude.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Camillo, Bergen and Susie, for your question. Understanding that your question is about and your priority is Mostyn Street. Right now, our focus for the Castlemaine Township is progressing the detailed designs for the Frederick Street precinct. And our team is working on that project at the moment. It's actually a project that's currently in progress. And noting that we don't have a huge resource pool that we can focus on large multiple projects at the same time, we do need to continue the work for Frederick Street at the moment because it is in progress. But noting also that Frederick Street was a place that was activated during the COVID lockdowns as a town square, if you like, or part of Frederick Street. And acknowledging that I cannot speak on behalf of the councillors or for the councillors about providing their blessing, we do appreciate your insights and your ideas, and yeah, just advise that right now our focus is the project that we have in progress, which is the Frederick Street precinct.
Thanks for that, Acting Director Jude Holt. Appreciate those comments. But I think there's some great ideas there, and certainly I had a good chat with Camillo about it on Sorry Day. We're meeting out in front of the market building, and yeah, it was a great idea, and I did suggest that he come along to a council meeting. I'm just sorry that we're closed down with COVID and he can't be here, but I know a couple of the other people as well, and it's an interesting thought. Have you got a question, Councillor Henderson?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Director Knight if she could speak to us about what her directorate's been doing in regard to helping people to reconnect or establish some form of human-to-human conversation, which probably has been a bit sabotaged by the latest lockdown, but might still be able to go ahead at a later date. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Henderson, and also an enormous thank you to Susie for the question that's been raised in that submission. And just to reflect on the question that Susie raised is, what is Council doing to address the increasing rates of loneliness, disconnection, anxiety and depression in our Shire? There were already a number of initiatives in place prior to the COVID pandemic, but there's also been a number of initiatives that have been implemented as a result of COVID that has exacerbated certainly the feeling of isolation, loneliness and disconnection. So there's many initiatives. So I'm just going to go through some of these now just to give you a bit of a snapshot, and the initiatives are certainly right across the organisation. Some of those sit within my directorate, but also obviously within the CEOs and Councillor Holt's directorate as well. So in response to COVID, there were many service alterations where we needed to move our face-to-face programs to online programs such as the Mondo Lounge, the Youth Advisory Group and our social support programs. We initiated a radio program for our aged care clients who could no longer receive social support. We increased the frequency of newsletters and social media posts that promoted access and inclusion opportunities for all ages right across the Shire. One of the incredible initiatives that was put in place in response to COVID and continues is the Community Activation and Social Isolation Initiative. That's also known as CASI. And what that CASI program saw was a dedicated 1-800 number that people could call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It also looked at the display of hard copy information at the Castlemaine Library, We've also got a dedicated website, which is Connect Mount Alexander, and that website provides specific information and links for people, and that's a real plethora of information who are looking for not just council resources and facilities, but other facilities such as Beyond Blue and many other resources as well. There's been a large number of collaboration with partners, particularly those from a health service perspective, looking at priority areas, grant opportunities, programs and projects. Council, through the Community Partnerships team, we run mental health first aid training. We have a memorandum of understanding, which was pre-COVID, with ELM, which is Every Life Matters, which is a suicide prevention and bereavement group who do incredible work right across the Shire. We're really blessed to have that group and that team working with us in the Shire. We've also continued work with the Mount Alexander Suicide Prevention Group, and Council provides in-kind support for venues for training such as the Safe Talk training. We're in the middle of establishing our strategic priorities at a 4-year level and a 10-year level. So for the 2021 to 2025 Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan and Council Plan, and also the 10-year community vision. So deliberative engagement's been undertaken to seek feedback from the community, and we are certainly hearing from the community some real concerns about mental health and wellbeing. So the feedback that we've already received will be encompassed in Council establishing what the strategic priorities and objectives are. Council's also working with a range of such as Castlemaine Health, Chirp, our neighbourhood houses, Malden Hospital as well, in health and wellbeing priorities, so that there's a shared objectives, shared set of priorities, so that we understand the gaps, we understand the emerging trends, and that we're listening to the data as well. Healthy Heart of Victoria is something that Council's incredibly proud to be involved with. So that helps get more people more active more often, which we know it does help with mental health, depression and anxiety. And finally, there's incredible work that's being done right across the council from a climate change perspective. As I mentioned earlier, that works across the CEO's directorate and Director Holt's directorate, as well as my own. So that looks at the built infrastructure as well as what the health and wellbeing initiatives are. So more than happy to discuss, and that's just some of the initiatives that we're undertaking, but more than happy to discuss any of those in further detail with you, Susie, if you would like.
Thanks very much for that, Director Knight. Really appreciate that comprehensive and detailed report. We'll move on to question 7, which was from Elise Brown. Also relates to the bio facility proposed for Castlemaine. On Tuesday, the 1st of June, I was given a flyer regarding the proposed bio facility. The Zoom meeting was held 2 days later on the Thursday, where the majority of our questions were not answered. The following day, Mount Alexander Sustainability Group went to multiple publicities selling the facility to the public with how great it's going to be. To this day, our questions have not been answered by Mount Alexander Sustainability Group. I'm the closest house to the proposed site. Do the councillors feel this is sufficient community engagement? Well, I think we're seeing the questions directed to councillors. That's something we need to take on notice, but I see the CEO's ready to speak. So over to you, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Absolutely, that will be a decision you make, and I'll just explain what's ahead before you might make that decision, Mayor. My understanding, Mayor, is that flyer was circulated by the Mount Alexander Sustainability Group to really start the process of greater community awareness about the project. In addition to my previous comments about that, which I won't go through again, I do note that there will be a formal notification process that will be conducted by council in the event that a planning permit application is received from Mount Alexander Sustainability Group. So as I said before, that I don't believe that that's happened to date, but once that does happen, then there will be, as there always is, a formal process for people to make submissions to that proposal. So really happy to follow up, Mayor, with Mount Alexander Sustainability Group on Elisa's comment that she hasn't heard back, and ask that they try to get in touch directly with her. and I'm sure they'd be happy to do that. But irrespective of that, I just want to assure everybody there is no planning permit process that has commenced yet, and once it does, there will, as part of that, there will be the usual advertising process and the opportunity for people to put in submissions for and against, as always, Mayor.
Thanks very much for the response, CEO. Okay, we'll keep moving. We've just about finished. Question 8 from Toby Waite. Hello, we wanted to add a statement for the upcoming discussion this evening on the possible extension of the Making Space program. Thanks to the Making Space project, Wild Food and Wine has had a successful summer and autumn, providing a space for the community and visitors to meet, socialise and reconnect in a COVID-safe environment. When brainstorming the Wild Parklet, we wanted to make a comfortable space for our patrons while working with the streetscape to help boost the foot traffic to Wild and the neighbouring businesses. Due to the gradient of the parklet, we filled the space with 8 cubic metres of stone to create a level, safe and aesthetically pleasing area that has been very well received by existing customers and our new guests. Nicknamed the Badlands, we serve small and sharing plates as per our everyday menu, with the addition of tacos to tie into the Taco Tuesday takeaway menu we ran through the hard lockdowns of 2020. It's a bit of a mouthful. When the parklet was at full capacity, we would roster 2 extra staff in the front of house and an additional staff member in the kitchen. Due to the more casual nature of outdoor service, these roles were perfect for staff new to the industry or moving from a cafe or pub setting to take on while we trained them up to work table service in the restaurant. When working on the business plan for Wild in 2019, we based our projections on 64 seated patrons inside, with the ability to run functions to the licensed capacity of 100 patrons. At best, since March 2020, we've been allowed to seat 36 patrons. However, with current restrictions in place after the most recent snap lockdown, we're currently capped at 18 patrons, with no indication when we may be able to increase again. Due to current restrictions and withdrawal of all government support, even though we are running at seating capacity every week, financially we're a break even or a marginal loss. When our parklet is not currently used much after 6 p.m, if we were to have these capacity limits imposed on us again during the summer months, it would be disastrous. We really need this spring and summer to go well to get back on our feet and ensure the survival of our business. We're excited to further improve the area, but before we spend any more money, we need to establish a time frame to calculate a CapEx budget with some idea of return on investment. We look forward to the discussion this evening. So there isn't really a question there, but there's a general concern about the impacts of that COVID's been having on small venues like Wild. And yeah, does one of our directors wish to talk to that item? Yes, Acting Director Jude Holt is going to speak to that one. Thank you, Jude.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Toby, for your letter. The team have been working on some analysis of the Making Spaces project, and we will have a report coming to you at the July Council meeting, providing you with a summary of the feedback that the team have received through our online portal and by speaking directly to businesses and people in the community. So that will definitely be on the July agenda for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Acting Director Jude Holt. Okay, that brings us to the end of our question time this evening. Councillors, can I have a motion to resume standing orders? Yes,
Mayor,
Councillor Anir.
I think there may be one more question that wasn't attached.
Do you have a copy of Councillor
Yeah,
Anir.
sorry, if I may. We have reviewed that one, Councillor Neer, and it is actually an item of correspondence, Mayor. So we will address that as an item of correspondence rather than as a question.
Thanks very much for that, CEO and Councillor Anir. So, councillors, can I have a motion to resume standing orders, please? Move Councillor McClure, seconded. Councillor Gardner, all in favour? We'll go back to our normal agenda. Thank you everyone that submitted questions this evening. I do hope that at our July meeting we're able to hear you in person, because yeah, it's much better if we've got the community at our meetings. But anyway, we'll press on. Our next item is on the agenda is 9.1.1, the road management plan. I've got a recommendation here, councillors. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Driscoll,
The
the motion is?
that Council approves the road management plan of 2021 and authorises council officers to publish a notice in the Government Gazette and local newspapers that a review of the road management plan has been completed.
Great, thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McClure. Are there any objections to this one? Don't think there will be. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. The road management plan was comprehensively reviewed and updated prior to the adoption of the 16th of October 2018. Subsequent to the new council being appointed in 2020, a further review has concluded, and council officers are satisfied that the standards in relation to and the priorities to be given to the inspection, maintenance and repair of the roads and classes of roads to which the plan applies are appropriate. This report recommends no significant changes to the road management plan.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Any further comment from other councillors? I think everyone's happy. There being no objection, I declare the matter carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 9.1.2, response to petition regarding one-lane bridge over Barcus Creek on Froome's Road. And Councillor McClure has noted a earlier conflict, so he's now magically left the room. So, councillors, I've got a recommendation in front of us. Do we have a motion, please? Yes, Councillor Maltby.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that council notes this matter was considered in item 9.22 of the 20th of April 2021 council meeting, and that Mr. Edwards was present when council considered it. 2, that council writes to Mr. Edwards as lead signatory of the Froome's Road Bridge petition to formally confirm that a motion to enable replacement of the bridge with a new 2-lane bridge in 2021-2022 was not passed by council. And 3, notes that a further report regarding management options for the bridge will be provided to a future council meeting.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Do I have a seconder for the motion, please? Yes, Councillor Gardner, thank you for that. Any objection, councillors? No objections. Councillor Maltby, do you wish to speak to the motion?
It's self-explanatory. The fact that we're not building the bridge means that there's some work to be done to make it safe.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Any other councillors wish to speak on the matter? There being no objection, I declare the matter carried. Thank you. We'll move on. Okay, 9.2.0. I've got a recommendation here in relation to response to petition, request to reduce speed limit in Yapeen. Councillors, do I have a mover?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Driscoll.
Yes, I
As
moved it.
printed.
Yes, as printed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Henderson, thank you very much. Any objections to this one? I think there will be. Okay, Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to this matter?
Thanks, Mayor. Council officers agree that the speed limit on the Vaughan Springs Road should be reduced, and therefore will formally submit a request to the Department of Transport to review and reduce the speed limit accordingly. Details of the recommended speed limit are subject to the assessment in accordance with the Department of Transport and criteria. So the council is on the same page, or council officers are on the same page as the petition, but it depends on what the Department of Transport determines.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Henderson, do you wish to comment, or you're fine?
Oh, I think it's long overdue that Yepeen has some speed restriction. I drive through Chewton every day. The report here says, along this stretch of roadway, this is through Yepeen, there are 30 occupied houses directly fronting the road or in close proximity. Now, looking at Google Maps, I see there's about 35 that directly front onto the Pyrenees Highway, and they've got a speed limit of 50 kilometres an hour. So I think the least that the Department of Transport can do is just bring Yepeen up to date with current conditions, i.e. the number of people actually living in that area, and give them a 60 kilometre an hour limit. But I appreciate they're very conservative, but I commend our officers for saying that they will basically advocate to Department of Transport for the 60 kilometre an hour. And if we get 80, well, it's better than nothing, but I certainly think it should be 60. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. There being no objection to that, I'll declare the matter carried. Thank you. And we'll move on. Okay. Now, have we got Councillor McClure back into the room? Yes, we have. Just checking. Is everyone with us at this point in time? Looks like they are. I thought we might have lost someone. Okay. So we're moving on to 9.2.1, which is the 4-lot subdivision at 28 Arches Road, Chewton. Councillors, we've got a recommendation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Maltby.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll move that council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for the 4-lot subdivision at 28 Arches Road, Chewton, subject to the printed conditions.
Thank you for that, Councillor Maltby. Do I have a seconder, councillors?
I'm sorry, Roger.
Yes, I've got Councillor Gardner's got his hand up, so we've got a second. Have we got any objectors to this one, councillors? Yes, we've got some objections, so we'll hear the debate. So we'll go back to Councillor Maltby. Would you like to speak to the matter, Councillor Maltby?
I'll close the debate, Mr Mayor.
Okay, I think.
No,
I think it's
all right. That's fine. Look,
you lead off. I think that's.
I'll lead off.
appropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
The officers are recommending that the subdivision be allowed. It's not a massive subdivision. There is perhaps one block that mightn't be the best block in the world, but reality is that Chewton is a growing community, and another 4 houses in Chewton will improve that community. Later on in life, council needs to address road construction policies, but in this instance, I'm happy to move and support that the subdivision be approved.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Councillor Gardner, do you want to speak now, or
no, I'll wait. Thanks.
Debate?
Yeah, I'll wait to the end. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Henderson, would you like to speak at this time?
Yes, certainly, Mayor. Thank you. I know this area. I've watched it develop from being a pretty rural area with the old house at the top of the hill. It belonged to Mr. Archer. He passed away several years ago, and his land has been sold off by whoever inherited it, as you do. And they've done pretty well out of that. There must be at least a dozen houses now in that area. I don't know if it was all his land, but it's a growing area of Tewton. It is zoned township, I suppose. It has got main sewage available and power, so that's okay. I just have a problem with the topography. The topography is extreme. As you go up the hill, the drop from Archers Road, going up the hill, Archers Road, the drop to Albert Street increases and increases, so that you have a pretty severe slope. And this appears in the lot 2, which is the top one. And given the defendable space is going to take up more than half of that lot, and a dam fills in quite a bit of the rest of it, I find it quite a challenge to suggest that a house might be built there. Certainly any house that could be regarded as being safe from bushfire, even with a BAL 29. It doesn't seem a reasonable place to me to put a new house. I think it's too close to a very steep bit of forest, which is now infested, if you like to say, by Cassinia. The jury's out on whether Cassinia is in fact a local shrub or it's a dreaded New South Wales import, but it's certainly spreading, I hate to say, like wildfire fire through our local bush. It's far more prevalent than it used to be. So in fact, old aerial photographs of the area do not show quite just how thick it is on the ground. It's the most flammable of all the shrubs, and there it is in gullied ground right next to lot 2. And whatever direction that lot's in, it's a fire danger. It's a fire danger. So I think it's I don't have enough surety from this report that the CFA have actually said it's a good idea. I think what the conditions seem to be saying is, well, you know, you're not asking us specifically for a planning permit for houses, you're asking for a planning permit for subdivision, so go for it. But I don't know if you're actually going to manage to build a house on that. And I think that's not fair, because we're going to lay on sewage, whoever's developer's going to lay on sewage, they're going to lay on mains power, they have to, part of the conditions is they have to lay on telecommunications, they have to lay on power, they have to lay on sewage, and then what? You can't put a house there that passes the conditions. I'm at this stage without further information about the CFA's consideration of the professionally produced bushfire management plan. I'm not prepared to give this the thumbs up, so I'm voting against it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Henderson. Other councillors, does anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Councillor McClure.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment that, again, that I'm not happy with the conditions that have been proposed with this particular subdivision, albeit a small 4-lot subdivision. As Christine or Councillor Henderson mentioned before, there is quite a number of houses in both these roads, Albert Road and Albert Street. I've been up there and counted at least 12 to 15 houses that have been put there in more recent time. And I point other councillors out to one of the objections that was raised by one person who said that Archers Road and Albert Street are compacted dirt roads, but even the few cars that currently use it cause significant dust nuisance in dry weather. During the wetter months, the road becomes severely muddy and slippery, and this presents safety concerns for motorists. During any construction period, the dust is much worse when there is a much greater frequency of heavy and light trucks and tradies, utes and trailers. Similarly, the depth of mud and the severity of loss of traction, even at slow speeds, increases increases significantly, and this has a direct impact on the motorist safety. And my issue with the conditions that the officers have put with this subdivision proposals, there's no infrastructure requirement in the subdivision. And I believe there should have been some form of infrastructure requirement, if not a requirement for the infrastructure to be built, then some contribution to some future requirement, because I believe council in the near future are going to be have an issue in that area from the residents requesting, how council are going to deal with dust and muddy roads in the future. And so my objection is that there's not enough in the conditions of this particular permit to require the developer to build some infrastructure into the development, and I don't think that's good enough. And it's development by stealth, and these developers should be contributing to the area. I don't know that they should be contributing to any development contribution to any other area, but I think that they should be contributing to the local area, and they should be building appropriate infrastructure within Archer Street and Albert Street to improve the infrastructure within the area. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for that, Councillor McClure. Other councillors wish to speak on this matter?
I will speak, but is anyone else going to say anything?
So Councillor Anir is going to speak first. Councillor Anir.
Hi, yeah, so I would really just echo what Councillor Henderson has already said on the matter. I've been up to this site a couple of times over the last week to check it out, and I was very, very surprised by the steepness, especially of that back block, lot number 2, which you cannot see as being very steep from a aerial photo. I think looking at the amount of the block that is taken up with just defendable space, which is needed to achieve that BAL 29, and then also having a massive dam in the middle, there is very little space left to actually build a dwelling. And even so, the dwelling would be on quite an incline. I'm concerned, I think, about the fire risk as well, because it does back onto significant vegetated land that and in the report it actually mentions that a fire would most likely come from that direction. So that is why I would be hesitant to approve the subdivision as is, because I have objections to that back block being perhaps not so safe and maybe not a great place to develop.
Thanks for that, Councillor Anir. Councillor Gardner, would you like to speak? Councillor Driscoll, do you want to speak?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. I actually agree with Councillor McClure in respect to the contributions for smaller blocks for the infrastructure, but I do believe that this subdivision is an appropriate outcome within the context of the site and surrounds, as the proposal provides lot diversity within an area with limited further growth opportunities. The subdivision meets all the relevant requirements of clause 56 of the planning scheme and is supported by relevant policy. It's been a fair bit of work on this, and I think the officer's done a good job, but I do think as a council we need to look at the contribution for infrastructure.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Over to you now, Councillor Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I do agree with Gary on the infrastructure requirements, but at the moment it's not part of our planning framework, so we can't leverage it, but I know that it's been looked at. But they will have to make a contribution to the open space, and that's a condition, so it's something. It is in the township zone. It does meet the requirements. I understand what Councillor Henderson and Anir are saying in terms of the lot size and bushfire. Those issues will have to be dealt with obviously in terms of the building permit for the actual house. It's probably amazing what you can build these days, engineering wise and size. It doesn't make it difficult, impossible, it just makes it a bit difficult, and that really whoever buys it will need to be aware of that. And I think, as Councillor Driscoll said, it meets all conditions, so I have no hesitation in supporting it.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. We will put it to the vote. So all those in favour of Councillor Maltby's motion, please raise your hand. Okay, those against? So we've got 4 for, 3 against. Declare the matter carried. And Councillor Henderson. Yes, Councillor Henderson, division. So all those in favour, please raise your hand again. But Councillor Gardner, Councillor Cordy, Councillor Driscoll and Councillor Maltby. And those against, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Anea and Councillor McClure. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our planning team. We've got expert planning team that providing us advice, and sometimes some of these matters are quite complicated. So a special thank you to them for their work on this matter. Okay, we'll move along. Okay, this one is 9.2.2. It's for a dwelling and shed at 854 Vaughan Chewton Road, Friarstown, and we've got a conflict of interest with Councillor Maltby, and he has left the room already, so that's great. Councillors, I've got a recommendation. Do I have a motion, please?
Yeah, I'd like to move it as printed, Councillor Cordy.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McClure, thank you. Do we have any objectors to this one? Not at this point. We'll hear from the while people have a think about that. We'll just hear from Councillor Gardner. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. I think, as you read, it's a development of a house. It is in a farm zone, and it does have a bush management overlay. Most of the people objecting to this were surrounding neighbours, and most of their objections, sorry, I'm looking from my notes, I had it out, there it is, was around the farm zone. Now, I suppose with that in particular, I know there was a recent VCAT position in that it's not against the planning zone. Sorry, I'll start again. Building a house under the 40 hectares is not a prohibited, you just need a permit. As with most of the people around this particular property, they all have permits and all have houses, but they're actually not farming. So it's no different. The applicant has dropped, I think it was the shed, and they're also putting in an extra fire tank, a water tank just for fire, and they meet all those conditions. So I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be approved as recommended by our officers.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Now, I'm sorry, councillors, who was our seconder for this one? Councillor McClure, was it? Do you want to speak now, Gary? Or
just to add, Mayor, that I'm happy with the proposal. I'm particularly happy that the proposal is getting really rid of the fragmented blocks. I think there's 23 parcels of land in the proposal, and that will all be pulled into one lot, which will prevent further development around this area, or potential for further development with individual lots. So I think that's a good outcome of it. I'm happy to support it. I felt really sorry for the poor applicant last week when we heard the objectors. I thought he was treated, for somebody that's moving into a small community like Friarstown, I really thought that he was going to suggest that they weren't going to do it anymore because of the reaction that they've had. It's so sad to hear those sort of comments, and I think it's a beautiful design of the house. I would live in it. I love the design of the house. I think it's suitable for the area where it's proposed, and I've got no problem with supporting the application. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for that, Councillor McClure. Councillors, is any other councillors wishing to speak on this matter? Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I hear what Councillors Gardner and McClure say, and yeah, look, I have to support that. I'm certainly happy that that shed's gone. I think that for me would have been a deal breaker if it was insisted on having a shed sitting down the bottom of the hill and with no connection to the house, blocking somebody's view of the valley. That's gone. That's good. And yeah, the consolidation of the 23 lots plus the large one into a well, not net, yeah, we're putting 23 parcels of land into one. So that means we're getting a house on this land, 14.23 hectares, whereas given a different story, different land tenure, put up for sale or whatever, different time, we could have ended up with 5 or 6, I'm not going to get 23, but there could have been quite a number of proposals there which could have slipped by a compliance or by and large supportive council. So I think in many ways this is for the local community a better outcome than it might otherwise have been. They are getting a house stuck on the top of a hill. I'm not really a great fan of houses on tops of the hill. I guess if I owned one myself, I might be a bigger fan. So after last week's storm, I was rather pleased not to have one of those. It will be a very nice place to live when there's not a raging gale happening. There was some question of whether it was actually going to be a dwelling for the developer or a speculative development, and the jury's still out on that one. There is that problem that we are being seen to be inconsistent by approving a dwelling on less than 40 hectares where there is absolutely no need to have one there in order to pursue what's it referred to grazing, which is a generally passive farming pursuit. Presumably the sheep are pretty active, but everyone else involved is pretty passive. Would you agree that, Mayor Cordy, as a sheep farmer yourself, it's a pretty passive pursuit, is it? Depends how many sheep.
Anybody that's involved in rural property needs a lot of support, Councillor Henderson. So, yeah, I think I wish well with.
Anyway, so, but I really can't find a strong enough argument to oppose this one, given the positives of the consolidation of the lots and the fact they're no longer going to put that shed there. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Other councillors wishing to speak, please? Councillor Anea, you're muted.
Hi. I was really unsure about this after the applicant objector meeting last week, because sometimes I find they make things even more muddy and murky than previously. So it was really pleasant to take a drive out there today with my dad. We approached it from multiple angles so I could see whether it would be the first thing one saw as one travelled to that site from any direction. And I was pleasantly surprised that it would have. I feel it will be relatively unobtrusive, hidden by a lot of vegetation. I'm really happy that the shed is not going ahead. I think that would have been a very big issue to a lot of neighbours. I'm very pleased that where they're putting the dwelling and the driveway, there's not going to be removal of trees or vegetation, because it is a really beautiful landscape around there. There's some really lovely stone ruins and stone walls located there, which my dad was really interested in because he loves looking at crumbling old things. And I'm really happy that none of them will be touched in the development. I think the house looks quite nice as well. And I really hope that the applicant does live there with their family and doesn't turn it into an Airbnb. But I couldn't really find a fault with it either. It looked beautiful. So that's what I think.
Thanks for that, Councillor Anir. Councillors, can we have a show of hands for those in favour, please? Okay, it's approved unanimously. That there's no objections to it. So thank you very much, and thanks again to our planning team for their work. Some of these matters are complex, and yeah, we really appreciate their work. So thank you for that. Okay, we'll move on. It's a thick report, so there's a lot of pages I've got to go through. Okay, the next item is 9.3.1, Annual Plan Progress Report 2021, Quarter 3. Councillors, we've got a recommendation. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Henderson.
Yes, Mayor, I move that Council notes the Annual Plan Progress Report 2020-2021, Quarter 3.
Thanks for that. And I've got a seconder. Councillor McClure, by the look of it. Thank you, Councillor McClure. And any objections to this one, councillors? No objections. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Henderson?
Just briefly, Mayor, to say that Council produces an annual report, an annual plan based on the 4-year council plan, and we get quarterly reports on how our annual plan is progressing. This is, of course, the last year of the last council's plan, and the way the system works, that the last half of it comes in for the first 6 months of this new council. So just so that this current council is working on its own council plan, and that will come into play as of October, I think. CEO, maybe. Anyway, yes. But for now, this is what the staff are working on, and what we're keeping an eye on, how it's progressing. Most things are moving ahead, have been completed, or are in progress. Just a few things have been held up. It's worth noting that there was housing, of course, is a very big concern for a lot of people in the Shire at the moment. There was a housing and accommodation study, and the description was to complete a discussion paper identifying the gaps in housing options to determine the needs of our community. This is a big thing, but in fact, what happened was we got a report on retirement living options, which was a bit of a smaller piece of work, but of course a necessary one, I suppose. However, over the page, we do have social housing, completing concept plans for 2 preferred sites. And the comments on that one is that it's grown to a much bigger baby, and following consultation with Homes Victoria, the scope of the project has been altered to leverage opportunities presented by the state government's big housing build. And so, as we know, there's currently an organisation built in town that's working very hard, advocating for and seeking means to increase the housing options for people in need in this community. And so that one is referencing the work that Council is doing as part of that. So that's an exciting watch this space item. But overall, thank you for the report, officers, and it's good to know that our plan is being carried out as we go. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. Does anyone else wish to speak on this matter? No, that's great. There being no objection, I'll declare the matter carried as per recommendation. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item, and CEO.
Can we split the recommendation into 2 motions? The first one being on Fogarty's Gap Road and the rest being considered separately?
That's an excellent idea. Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Let's do that. And seeing I've got a conflict of interest in relation to item 1, I'll hand over to Councillor Maltby. And I think for simplicity, Councillor Maltby, I'll get you to, I'll leave the meeting for item 1, but I'll get you to chair the item in its entirety, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Otherwise I won't know when to come back. So I'm leaving the room now. Hand over to you as in your capacity as Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Maltby.
Thanks. So, councillors, we'll do it in 2. There's a recommendation number 1 about Fogarty's Gap Road. Is there anybody wishing to move that? Councillor Gardner.
Yeah, I'll just move it as printed.
Thank you. Seconded Councillor McClure. Any discussion? If not, we'll carry it. Thank you.
Just note that we're actually using our own.
Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry. I think it's worth noting that we are actually committing council funds, including roads to recovery money, to do this considerable works on Fogarty's Gap Road to increase the safety, having had some terrible accidents resulting in fatalities there in recent years. We were hoping to get black spot funding, but the state government somehow didn't think that we were worthy of it. So we're using our own money, if you like. And I think that's worth noting, that all councillors are supportive of that.
Thank you, and that's correct. It will help that area to start with.
Everyone's frozen.
So we're getting the mayor back, Josh. Maybe not.
Okay, I'm back, Councillor.
You're back. Thank you. All right, so we'll now go to the rest of the recommendations, which is 2 through to 15. Any but councillor wish to move that they be approved? Adopted?
I'm happy to move it as printed.
Thanks, Councillor Gardner. Seconder, Councillor Anea. Any discussion, councillors?
No opposition.
No opposition?
That's a first.
There you go. All those in favour then? And
can we speak to it?
Probably need time to talk to them.
I did ask, did you wish to speak? Yes.
We should
Councillor
all
Henderson.
Richard, for goodness sake.
Well, I'll go first then.
Right.
Budget. Oh yeah, so another budget, and look, you know, who likes paying rates? But it's sort of like death and taxes. We all pay rates, so we're here. But it is interesting to note that this budget, yes, it is increasing the rates by 1.5%, which is well under the rate cap. Just because it's going up 1.5% doesn't mean you'll pay that. It shifts around, and it's really hard to even try, and if you bought in zero, it's going to make any difference. But for me, I must also, before I start, acknowledge Lisa and Caroline and their team for this, putting this together. Budgets normally start talking around October, November. It takes a long time. Obviously, councillors want things done and staff want things done. We did a bit of cutting this year, and we finally got there with very minimal spats and disputes, I must say, which occasionally quite happen. And so well done to Caroline and for Lisa for getting us through this. This budget is financially responsible with a surplus, and we're also repaying debt. And considering we come through COVID-19, it's a strong position, and we are having an operating surplus and also a full surplus. And that will allow us to respond if there's any future challenges, and obviously COVID is still around, so that's a possibility, and or any opportunities, grant opportunities might come, so that is good. Some of the highlights, I suppose, for me and my communities, Fogarty's Gap Road, I mean, which has now been approved. I mean, and as Christine mentioned, that is funded by council. We were hoping for Black Spot, we didn't get it. That is a big priority, and I'm really great to see that done. Malden Streetscape project obviously will continue, even with all the hoopla about crossovers and more to come, but I'm confident we'll work through that and it will be a great project by the end. I'm really pleased to see there's funding designed for the female-friendly change rooms, the billboard for Oval, so I'm hoping to knock that off and then get them built in the next year. And I'm also, the other thing I just want to comment on is in the community response, we did have a number of people turn up, and as councillors, we agreed to fund most of them. So I suppose for those community members out there who sometimes think, oh, you know, it's all a done deal, it's all a waste of time. If you actually engage in this process and you have good projects and good ideas, we will listen to them. So yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty good budget, and I just commend it to my fellow councillors.
Thanks, Councillor Gardner. Anybody else? Councillor Henderson, Councillor Nia?
So this is my first experience of doing a budget, and I started probably knowing like less than nothing about how to do a budget. And I was so pleasantly surprised at how my fellow councillors and I debated and made decisions and worked really effectively as a team to come up with this budget, supported obviously by our fantastic staff, especially Carolyn, who multiple times explained to me how rates work, and I can't thank her enough for that. But I was really excited to be a part of this, and I think the highlight for me, even though it was challenging at times, was the community consultation aspect, when people came in and told us why they thought their projects deserved some money in the budget. And it was challenging at times because people expect a lot, and you know that you can't give them everything they want because we don't have all the money in the world and we have to make tough choices. And I found that really hard because I wanted everyone to be happy. But it was really pleasantly surprising how many people who did come to those community consultations we were able to accommodate, and some of the next projects we were able to fund that I can see making really positive differences within our communities. So what I thought was going to be a terrifying experience actually turned out to be quite pleasant, and it was a really nice experience to have working as a team. And so I guess thank you to everyone here for making it so pleasant, and to all the staff who supported us in it. It was a really pleasant experience for me, and I hope it continues to be so. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Nia. Anyone else wish to comment? Gary, was it? Yep.
Matt's put his hand up too, but thanks you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to support Rosie and Nia's comments and Stephen's comments. I was mildly surprised at the process. I thought it would be much more difficult and harrowing than what it turned out to be, and I was particularly happy to be involved in the people that came in submitted to council, and note that a lot of those were successful. Council listened to them, and we may not have been able to give them all that they wanted, but we've given them something to move on with their project. So that was pleasing. I was pleased to see that the Camp Reserve has got some funding to move forward in the next financial year. So that was pleasing for me, because I've been harassed by a few people on that committee. So I'll be pleased to see that project move forward. So as Rosie said, it was an interesting process. I learned a lot about budgets. I learned a lot about rates. I generally wasn't supportive of any rate rise before coming on this council, but I now understand why we do have rate rises, and I'm pleased to support it. So thank you to the rest of the council for making it such a good process, and particularly to Caroline and the rest of the staff to make it such a good process to work through. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll.
Oh,
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. So I'd just obviously like to thank the councillors for the education that they gave all councillors and the way they answered our questions and explained in a succinct manner and a precise manner, which I think is great. The budget documents details both in the operating and the capital income and for the 21-22 financial year. I just want to point out a couple of things that we have sufficient cash to meet upcoming provided on council's unrestricted cash balances. We have no new borrowings, which I think is really important. We have a cash surplus of near $300,000 and an operating surplus of 1.58 million. They're proposed. Obviously, things can change, but we have that includes a 6.18 million of capital grant income. So we have the flexibility, in my opinion, in this budget to potentially do a few more things if things come up throughout the year. And once again, COVID's still with us and any other emergencies that might happen. So I think it's a responsible budget, and I thank everybody involved with it.
Thanks, Councillor Driscoll. Any other councillor wish to comment? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. Yep, thank you, fellow councillors. Some great statements, and has been pretty involved, quite challenging. At least we didn't have to do 2 this year, which we did last year, thanks to COVID. But it's always big, and I think well done to my new councillors, my new fellow councillors, for slotting in there and working out what was going on and going on with it, even though obviously some, if not all of you, are very experienced in the whole business of commercial budgets. This council budget is its own beast. So it's been good to work with everyone. My highlights for me and what's coming in the capital works, of course. Well, first of all, it was great, 23 submitters, and we were able to accommodate a lot of what people asked for, which is different from my experience in days gone by, where we've gone, oh yeah, it's right, so what, and can't help you there. We actually did find some more money to support the student pool in their operations with their increased requirements for safety there, for lifeguards. And we're able to accommodate was something that, of course, in my local area is very important, the old tennis court detailed design for a youth space in Taradale. That's very exciting. And we, councillors, agreed to increase the time allocation for our environment officer from 0.6, I think, to a full time, which that was in response to several submitters saying, we need more time, we need more environmental officer assistance to help works on the ground. So that's really good to see. One of the great things is we had several submissions saying, for heaven's sake, do something about finishing the Campbell's Creek trail, Campbell's Creek Friars Road, the Campbell's Creek walking and cycling trail. That's been something that's been in the too hard basket for a long time. It's expensive. And finally, we've got some funding, some external funding. We'll put some budget money in, but we've got a large lump of money from the Community Sports Infrastructure Stimulus Program. Not only that, but it's going to build a footpath along the Campbell's Creek Friars Road to the Campbell's Creek Reserve. And that, when I was last mayor, which is not that long ago, I met with a mum and her children, explaining how important it was to have safe walking aspect to school from Eleanor Drive, which is just past the Campbell's Creek Reserve there, quite a growth area. So it's really very pleasing to see that we're actually going to be able to construct that in the coming year. Very happy about that, as well as allowing people to ride a bike or walk all the way from the Campbell's Creek Recreation Reserve into Castle Lane without going on a road. That's great stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Cordy.
Thanks for that, Deputy Mayor Maltby. I'd just like to comment in terms of what I particularly picked up on Councillor Anir's comments, that we're very fortunate with the team of councillors and also the staff that we do work effectively as a team. And you know, I'm a firm believer in together everyone achieves more. And you know, it's an excellent budget. You know, we receive a little bit of criticism as we go along because it's sort of steady as she goes. But when you think about it in the context of the COVID that with our communities really hurting from, the fact that we are moving forward with positive plans for the future and against a backdrop of very responsible financial management, it means we are able to take advantage of government grant funding when it becomes available if we have to contribute. But it's certainly very satisfying in my capacity as mayor to be involved with this team of councillors and also our directors and CEO and the finance team and all of the managers and staff that contributed to the budget. It's a wonderful achievement and it's a major piece of work, and thank heavens we don't have to do it 2 times. So well done, everyone. Thank you.
And in finishing, let me just say that every comment councillors have made is correct. It was a joint effort. It does contain lots of works for the Shire throughout the whole Shire, but it is a responsible budget. And whilst nobody likes rate increases, this one is very minimal and it is below the state government cap. So at the end of the day, we have worked together and got a very good result. Is there anyone wishing to vote in favour? Everybody? We'll carry it. And Mr. Mayor, you can take the chair back.
Thank you for your great work, Deputy Mayor Maltby. So that's a good result all around. Okay, we'll move along to item 9.3.3, revenue and rating plan. Councillors, do I have a mover and a seconder?
That one for the tone. Oh, no.
So that's a mover, Councillor Gardner.
I thought Rosie did it first.
No, you do it, Stephen. I'll second.
You're up, Councillor Gardner.
Right. Yeah, here we go. We just talked about budget. Now we're looking at a plan. I mean, this is a requirement in the Local Government Act that we need to have a plan. We're sort of done, but as we go along, we will be reviewing it, so it's not in concrete. But yeah, it's just as printed.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. And I've got a seconder there, Councillor Anir. Are there any objectors to this? Don't think so. Does anyone else wish to speak to it?
Not even me, man. Oh, Councillor does.
I would just like to go on record here and say that I used to complain so much about paying rates. And if there's one thing I have learnt from my time on council and will never forget, is that I can never, ever complain about paying rates ever again. So that is what I would like to pass on to everyone, because yes, these rates, we make them stretch as far as they can, and I can never complain about it again.
You can still complain, Rosie.
But I won't.
Good work, Councillor Anir. Great. I think the values are going up in your area. So, Councillor, there being no objections to this one, I declare the matter carried. Thank you very much. And we're moving on to 9.3.5. And we'll just note that 9.3.4 was omitted from our agenda. So we're on to 9.3.5, which is the finance report for March 2021. Councillors, you've got a recommendation. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Maltby,
I'll move the council notes the finance report for the nine-month period to the 31st of March 2021.
do I have a seconder, please? Councillor McClure. Any objections? Okay, Councillor Maltby, do you wish to speak to the matter?
No, it's all in good hands.
Thanks for that. Councillor McClure, do you wish to speak to the matter? Councillor Henderson.
What would you like me to say there? Look, it's important to get our quarterly reports. We interrogate them individually and discuss a bit, but I think the overall, it's all in there. We can always complain that capital works are behind where they're meant to be. Actually, having said that, including on order, yes, well. Look, things are progressing. They're never 100% what we want. However, the money is being spent, which is what our job is about, spending the money, spending it wisely and spending it in the public interest. And we have all the planned works can take place as planned or as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. Does anyone else wish to comment on this? No, there being no objection, I declare the matter carried. So that's the finance report adopted. Next item is delegates' reports. CEO, do you wish to speak to your report? You're muted. No.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And I think you've all got a copy of our usual report, Mayor, that has a view and I. It might come up on the screen soon. I'm not sure. If not, we'll make sure that you do get a copy of that. Mayor, we've been to a few things in the last month or so, but if I may, Mayor, just first of all say congratulations to you all on your first budget together and thank all of you for the way that you worked with all of our teams to get to where you've got to tonight. It was very much appreciated. And as you've all said as well, can I just lend my thanks to Director Knight particularly and the Executive Manager of our finance team, Carolyn Ross, and that team. But also, as you've also said, Mayor, so many people across the whole organisation make contributions to the deliberations that you have to work out where are you going to spend the limited funds that you've got. There's a huge amount of effort comes from everywhere across the organisation to help inform that discussion. And so I really want to thank all of the staff involved as well. While I'm thanking people, Mayor, I did also want to just say an acknowledgement. Oh, here comes our work list, Mayor. I did want to also acknowledge the work of many staff over the last few days since the storms went through our Shire, like they did through all of Victoria. There was a lot of cleanup, particularly on our roads, with power lines and trees down all over the place. And the staff, as they do, just got straight in and started working to fix that as quickly as they could. We were a little bit fortunate, comparatively speaking, against other councils with the amount of damage that happened to people's personal property. There was still some of that, but not as much as other places. So the staff had more than enough to do, though, in trying to get our roads reopened for people to be able to try and get about their lives again. So a big thank you to everybody. And also, as often happens in these situations, if we're not impacted significantly, then someone around us is. And certainly Hepburn and Macedon had more than their fair share of damage. And we once again had staff put up their hands to go and help out, particularly in Hepburn. I know we had staff go to Hepburn. A big thank you to them for choosing to help out our friends who needed some help. As always, Mayor, happy to answer any questions about the list that's on the page, but the one that I probably would mention there is that the meeting that myself and Director Knight and Director Holt had with the Executive of Regional Development Victoria recently. They are great funding partners and partners of ours, Regional Development Victoria, and they help us to attract a lot of money to this community. And we had another fantastic meeting with them to talk about some more exciting announcements that aren't far away that councillors know a little bit about, but the community doesn't yet fully know, but they'll come out in the coming week or so, we hope. So great to talk about those achievements again, but also to talk about what's next. And we are constantly compiling a list of what's next and working with, as I say, our great funding partners and friends in RDV, Rachel Lee and her team. And we've given them the next list of things to work on together, Mayor, I can assure you. And just wanted to say big thanks to them as well for what they've done to help bring a lot of money into our community over the last 12 months, along with, of course, Marie Edwards, who does so much to help us get funding from all over government. So that's it for me, Mayor.
Thank you very much, CEO. Really appreciate your report and the excellent work you do. I think one of the things, during this last month, we've had a couple of announcements that Marie Edwards has made, funding announcements, and they've been fantastic, and really funded some things that were aspirational projects that council wanted to do, like the Campbell's Creek Trail and also the small town beautification projects. And what that does is, by bringing in that funding, it frees up council funds for other projects. So really appreciate the work that Marie and our other elected members do on our behalf. So thank you very much for that. Councillors, delegates' reports. Does anyone else wish to speak? We're all good this evening, so thank you very much for that. Notice of motion. There's no notice of motion that I'm aware of, so there's nothing to report there. Urgent special business is nil. Now, item 13 on the agenda, there is a confidential item, so I've got a recommendation here that council closes the meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please, councillors? Councillor Anir and Councillor Gardner. Any objection? No objection to closing the meeting to consider confidential items, so I declare the meeting closed to the public.